So, good morning. It's good to be back. What has it been? Three Sundays in a row? But I wasn't here last time, but I still preached. Did you guys get that? I was addressing my future self in the sermon. And yes, I did ask a pre-recorded question and had one of the audience members here answer it, which blew the minds of everyone else. So, we have a little fun here at America's Promise. All right, now last week in the sermon, we did look at the prophets, and we learned that in time, regathered Israel and Judah were to be dwelling with a prophetic entity known as the daughter of Babylon. You recall? All right, and which we found out by using other verses and other prophets. We were able to identify the daughter of Babylon as Mystery Babylon very conclusively. And that would be in the book of Revelation. So today we're actually going to be looking closer at Jeremiah, like I said last week, since he prophesied both about Babylon of his day and the Babylon of the future. It's very important that we understand these things. But before we get started, I'd like to make you aware, once again, of what America's Promise teaches concerning Christian eschatology. All right, so eschatology, like we've done this before, eschatology is the study of the end. Okay, formal definition, the study of the end of the world, the study of the end of human history, or the end of the current age, a branch of theology that deals with beliefs about death, judgment, and the final fate of humankind. Okay, so that's what eschatology is defined. Now, there are actually three types of eschatology, mainly. And I know this is going to be or seem overly simplified to you guys that have actually studied this out. But three we're going to look at just for simplicity's sake. We have preterism, we have historicism, and we have futurism. All right, so that's the three branches usually, and there are splinter cell groups, I know. But preterism is what? The belief that some or all of the Bible's prophecies have already occurred in history. The term comes from the Latin word praeter, which means past or beyond. Okay, so preterists say Bible prophecy, some or all of them, have already come to pass. Okay? And then we have partial preterism, which interprets some prophecies as fulfilled, you see. Some, not all. And then full, of course, which interprets all prophecies as fulfilled. All prophecies as fulfilled. And as you can see, that is problematic, because if all prophecies have been fulfilled, then all prophecy has stopped, right? All right. We have historicism, which is interpreting the Bible that links biblical prophecies to real historical events and people. It's also known as the continuous historical view. Okay, and just so you know, that's what America's Promise sticks to. That's what our viewpoint of Christian eschatology is, all right? The historicists believe that prophecies are fulfilled continuously from Daniel's time to the second coming of Jesus Christ. Historicists associate symbols in the Bible with historical people, nations, or events. Interestingly enough, almost all Protestant reformers held historicist views. It's a good thing they did, because if they believed all prophecy had already been fulfilled, there's no reason for them to jump on a few ships and come to America, right? Okay, so historicist, that's where we sit. And we have futurism, which interprets certain passages in the Bible as future events. This view interprets the passages as symbolic, historic events that have already happened. Okay, so futurism usually puts prophecies, some prophecies have been fulfilled, but futurism leads any future prophecies that will happen just prior to Christ's return. So there's nothing going on right now. It's all going to happen very shortly right before Christ's return. You can see that is problematic as well, because there's no continuous fulfilling of prophecies, and there's nothing to look back at in this age. So the reason I bring this up, we have preterism, some or all prophecy has been fulfilled and or it has stopped, depending on if you're full or not. Historicism, continuous and symbolic and literal prophecies. Obviously, that's us. And then futurism, yet to be or shortly before the second advent is where prophecy sits. Okay? And the reason I bring this up is because I've had a few questions concerning this very subject over the last couple of weeks. One example being that there is in this nation a group of believers who have gotten together and are currently doing a Bible study. Okay, and they're using this Bible study as an outline, a course as an outline. And the outline is full preterist, at least to a certain extent full preterist, concerning eschatology. And And of course you see, so the outline that they're using is full of preterists, and then they're listening to our prophecies about the daughter of Zion and the daughter of Babylon, and they're getting confused because like, well, Pastor Reed, if everything's come to pass, how is it that you're preaching this is happening in this current age? You see why they're confused. You see that. All right. They listen to my preaching, and the Bible study group that has contacted me, there are a mixed bag of believers. So you've got some longtime kingdom believers, some new kingdom believers, and then of course some people that don't know that we're Israel. They're just getting turned on to the fact, right? So the lady that's leading it, of course, called me and asked me, well, look, I'm getting questions about why these people are able to look out into the earth today and see these things happening as the Bible tells. If we're teaching preterism, then I've got conflicting statements, and I just don't know how to answer these questions. Okay, so that's why we're going through this. It's important to keep these in mind as we push forward with Jeremiah, because we're going to go through the book of Jeremiah in depth. And I don't want to continually cover eschatology because I'd just be reinventing the wheel. There are plenty of resources, there's plenty of books, and there's plenty of preaching that's been done on eschatology, all right? And I'll show you a few things that we actually have here at the church. This one's called A Question of Prophecy. It's actually in 2 parts, all right? 6 points refuting the early writing of Revelation. The reason why the early writing of Revelation, or the dating of the writing of the book of Revelation, is so important is because if futurists can put the book of Revelation to be written prior to 70 AD, then all of Revelation is written about what came to pass in 70 AD. Or preterists, I'm sorry. So, yes, preterists. But if the book of Revelation is written after 70 AD, then it's foretelling of future events yet to come. So you can see that would be problematic. So the dating of the book of Revelation is very important to preterists. And then, of course, part 2 was actually written by our own Pastor Dave Barley, The Cradle of Futurism and Preterism. So yes, this one's an excellent book, a resource on eschatology, which, like I said, we're not going to get into this morning. We offer another one by Paul Owen. This is The Origin of Futurism and Preterism. This will straighten out the definitions just like we had up here on the board. So if you're curious about what it is I'm talking about, do these and read these books. And actually, one of the best resources we have is Charles Jennings' book, The Book of Revelation. All right, and he's taking verses that these 3 viewpoints have, and he's laying it all out and saying, look, this is what Revelation says. It says it's going to be a future prophecy, so it can't be used in a preterist viewpoint. This is the Book of Revelation, End Time Prophecies by Charles Jennings. I highly suggest reading this to straighten out what we're talking about this morning, because you're going to have to get this straight if we understand Bible prophecy. And as we go along with our study in Jeremiah, it should be evident that America's promise holds, that prophecy is both fulfilled in the time it was given in the Bible, and it's doubling as future prophecy yet to be fulfilled or currently being fulfilled in this end of the age. And of course, that's progressive then, continuous, right? All right, so where were we? All right, Jeremiah, like I said, he was used of God to speak about the Babylon of his day and of future Babylon. So immediately, you can understand why straightening out eschatology is important when discussing Jeremiah, you see, because it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. He was called to prophesy in 626 BC and did that for about 40 years until Jerusalem fell, or was taken and destroyed, really, by Babylon in 586 BC. So we'll start in Jeremiah 1, verse 1 and 2. The words of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, of the priests that were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Lord came in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. So the 13th year of King Josiah's reign would actually be 626 BC. All right? Verse 3. It came also in the days of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, until the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, until the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 5th month. All right, so there's the setting. And if you notice, of all the prophets in the Bible, Jeremiah actually addressed the nations of Israel before they were taken into captivity. So he preached to them before. It's very important. And of course, we know that Jeremiah was reluctant to go through with his mission because of his age, right? All right, let's look at verse 7 through 10 in Jeremiah 1. But the Lord said unto me, Say not, I am a child, for thou shalt go to all that I shall send thee, and whatsoever I command thee, thou shalt speak. Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to deliver thee, saith the Lord. Then the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in thy mouth. See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out, to pull down, and to destroy, and to throw down, to build, and to plant. Familiar verses, correct? All right. And you remember it's very similar to what Isaiah. Remember, it was the hot coals that touched Isaiah's mouth. So we see that we know that Jeremiah, like Moses, was doubtful to carry out God's plan. Yet God says here, don't you worry about that. I'll give you the words to speak. And don't worry about the people to whom you'll speak to. Be not afraid of them. Okay? Of course, apparently this ended Jeremiah's doubts and reluctance, and of course, this should put our own minds at ease, right? So we're going to start showing parallels between Jeremiah and ourselves today. So every one of us out there, not just the pastors, the preachers, or evangelists, to lay people, just because you're not called to stand behind the pulpit doesn't mean that you don't have God's word in your mouths. So be not afraid of the people to whom you're to speak about the kingdom gospel, right? Just like Jeremiah. And of course, many believers of ours out there, I know, are apprehensive about speaking up because they feel that other people know the scriptures so much better and they'll lose the argument. I know that. Well, kingdom believers aren't really involved in arguments. Let's just get that out of the way. They're just testifying for God and stating God's truth within God's word. So it's a win-win. We don't really argue, do we? We just tell you what the Bible says. And now I know that puts us at odds with everyone else, but we don't really argue. So don't consider it a win or lose case when you go out preaching to people. Okay? Be not afraid of their faces. You're quoting God's word and the truth of the Bible. And as a matter of fact, if you understand the book of Jeremiah and its history, and you read it in its entirety, it'll seem that Jeremiah is constantly on the losing end, doesn't it? He was. It felt like he was. Yet God says, stick to my word, and you'll never find yourself ashamed. Doesn't God tell us that? That's what he says. So this should be something we should pay attention to, God's words to Jeremiah. Of course, over the last week or so, I've been rereading the study of Jeremiah by Howard Rand. You guys ever read this one? Okay, I've been rereading this one in preparation for my Jeremiah studies here. And I was surprised. I'd forgotten or just didn't read that part of the book. But Rand says that some actually teach that Jeremiah failed his mission. You see, they say he failed his mission. And the reason they say that is because they have evidence of the old Babylonian Empire indeed being rolling over the city of Jerusalem, but they don't have any evidence of this building and planting that Jeremiah was supposedly, that he had done, right? They can't find anywhere on the earth where Jeremiah aided God's children in the building and planting. So it's taught that Jeremiah actually just disappeared. He went off and died in Egypt. Mission failed. It's actually taught that way. And I looked it up, and these guys don't know what to do about it. Now, if you've misidentified the people, God's people, if you've misidentified them, well, you'll probably agree that Jeremiah failed, right? But if you know what Jeremiah did with King Zedekiah's daughters, right, then we know he did not fail in his calling and his mission. So did Jeremiah build and plant? Yes, because kingdom believers know these things, right? All right, and that's just our understanding of the Bible and what it actually says and what it actually teaches and how that refutes common preaching. Even this, the building and planting, they have no evidence of it in the earth unless you can properly identify God's people. So no, Jeremiah did not lose or fail. You see here, God set him up over the nations and over kingdoms. And there would be destruction, which would serve as punishment. And that punishment and the destruction would be actually a means to move God's people out into the earth. To accomplish what? Well, building and planting. Now, what was built? What was planted? The kingdom nation of Israel regathered, right? Can we observe this nation today? Yes. So did Jeremiah fail? No. If he did, he'd be the only one, because you'll notice all of God's prophets, all of them were mission complete. Not a one of God's prophets failed. Not one. So Jeremiah would stand alone if he actually failed as it's taught. We know it. We know better. So these promises here are given to Jeremiah along with the mission, right? Go to verses 17 and 19 through 19. Thou therefore gird up thy loins and arise and speak unto them all that I command thee. Be not dismayed at their faces, lest I confound thee before them. For behold, I have made thee this day a defenced city, and an iron pillar, and brazen walls against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, against the princes thereof, against the priests thereof. See, civil and religious rulers, and against the people of the land. And they shall fight against thee, but they shall not prevail against thee, for I am with thee, saith the Lord, to deliver thee. All right. Again, these are words we ought to pay special attention to. Jeremiah's message of prophecy contained very bad news, did it not? All right. Yet it also contained very good news, right? It did. And of course, we have the bad news, the destruction and the captivity, and the good news of the building and the planting. All right? Well, like Jeremiah, we're called to say the same things to the Israel people today, are we not? And I know firsthand that the things I must say will, and they do, without a doubt, make these people angry. I'd say Pastor Reed makes people angry enough to want to toss him in a well, for sure. For sure. Or they'll find some other way to shut me up. The irony of it all is that, to me, is that this opposition is coming from our own people. Our own people. Right? Actually, one of the main reasons we're looking at Jeremiah's mission so closely is so that we may understand that we have a duty to declare what God did for our people in the past and what he's doing for our people today. Right? And that includes good and bad. Right? That we still have to go through with it, even though the words I must speak to the Israel people today aren't the most pleasant things. And God says here, well, don't be concerned or fearful of what they're going to do or say. And God then tells Jeremiah, and he tells us, that if you falter, he'll make sure that we're confounded before them. So it's a little bit of a rock and a hard spot, right? You will say these things. They're not going to like it. They're not going to be pleasant things to say. But if you don't, you'll be confounded before them. Who? The enemies of God? No. Judites, God's people, we're to bring this message to. So it won't be easy. As we look at what message Jeremiah had to bring, it at first glance looks to be overwhelmingly negative. If you go through the chapters, it's a fairly negative message right out the bat. And he went right up to Judah, and he told them about the Babylonian captivity, and that they were going to go into it. Period. That's what he had to tell them. And I'm sure the people in Jeremiah's day of the Judite kingdom would have loved to hear more about the preaching of the deliverance, right, of the nation that would come 70 years later. But Jeremiah was required by God to speak against them first and tell them why they were going in captivity before bringing them the good news, right? So today I'm actually tasked with this same message, except I must tell our people why we are currently under the control and captivity of Mystery Babylon, right? And you guys, this is your mission as well. That means that before I can get into what we're to do about it and how the building and planting are implemented, I have to tell us why we're in the captivity of Babylon. And it's not good. It's not good. By the time we get into the matters I've set out to preach on with this little sermon series, which is the what I'm preaching against is this whole coming out of Babylon mentality, which is done and is doing more harm to our people than good. I'm quite sure that in preaching this, I will come under fire and be called everything under the sun. In spite of that, what am I to do then? Right? So yes, I have to preach some things that aren't going to be pleasant to our people. And I'm to do what? Well, gird up your loins, arise and speak unto them all that I command thee, right? So buckle up, right? Pastor Reed's on a mission, and it's not going to be popular. But I've got to say what God has commanded, lest I be confounded, right? So keep an eye out and follow along, and you'll come to the sermon that we're getting to before too long. And actually, I'm going to call it coming out of Babylon. So keep an eye out for that, because when we get to that sermon, I'm going to say some things. And like I preached back in April, I'm going to be inspecting some fruit. Big time, all right? So that's what this is all gearing up to. But you have to understand, what I have to say, what Jeremiah had to say to the God's people aren't going to be pleasant at first. It's going to make people angry, all right? So Jeremiah was to go to the kingdom of Judah and tell them plainly that they were going directly into Babylonian captivity. And if they read the book from chapter 1 on, you'll see chapter after chapter, as a matter of fact, about 30 chapters at least, that we see he's preaching the same message, that Babylon is coming, and they will be going into captivity. For what? Well, their sins, right? And if you read the 30 chapters on, you'll see that Jeremiah got into a lot of trouble in the process, right? He did. By the time you get to chapter 32, we do see that the Babylonian armies are already moving against Judah, okay? So they're coming. So for years now, through the 30 chapters, for years now, the warnings to the king, the priests, the elders, the officials, and the people themselves have fallen on deaf ears. Okay? All right, now look at Jeremiah 32, verse 1 and 2. The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord in the 10th year of Zedekiah, king of Judah, which was the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar, for then the king of Babylon's army besieged Jerusalem, and Jeremiah the prophet was shut up in the court of the prison, which was in the king of Judah's house. All right. So, by the time the enemy has mobilized against the kingdom, Jeremiah has been ignored, and apparently his message has been so unpopular that he's been thrown into prison, right? Well, why? Verse 3 through 5, for Zedekiah, king of Judah, had shut him up, saying, wherefore dost thou prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall take it. And Zedekiah, king of Judah, shall not escape out of the hand of the Chaldeans. It's another word for Babylonians. It's an old name. But shall surely be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon, and shall speak with him mouth to mouth, and his eyes shall behold his eyes, and he shall lead Zedekiah to Babylon, and there shall he be until I visit him, saith the Lord. Though ye fight with the Chaldeans, ye shall not prosper. Well, no wonder Jeremiah was doing time. Right? It isn't difficult to imagine why this message wasn't too popular with King Zedekiah, because Jeremiah said, Jerusalem's going to get rolled over by Babylon. You yourself will be eye to eye with the king of Babylon. Oh, well, that was enough to invite the ire of King Zedekiah, wouldn't you say? Not a popular message, not at all. And if you've read the previous chapters, you'll actually find that these words here are the same things that Jeremiah repeated over and over and over and over again. This is exactly what he was saying, and I guess King Zedekiah had enough. He threw him in prison. Now look closely at these verses, because there may be something in there that you might have missed, though. Right? Notice Jeremiah said what? What did he say? He said, I'll give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall take it. And the king of Judah shall not escape out of the hand of the Chaldeans. Though ye fight with the Chaldeans, ye shall not prosper. Jeremiah said that no matter how hard or how bravely or how valiantly you fight Babylon, you will still be in its captivity. When you fight Babylon, in fact, when you fight Babylon, not only will you not escape, but you will not prosper. See where this is going? Okay. Obviously, Zedekiah didn't want to hear that, right? And neither do the Christian people of today. Hear what? That no matter what we do among ourselves to struggle against or escape Babylon, we will continue, at least to a certain point, to lose that war. It doesn't make any difference what you do. The captivity is here upon us. It's God ordained. It serves his purposes, and it has a God-prescribed end, which we don't know about. Hopefully soon, right? But that's God's timetable. And that's all part of God's plan for the ages, right? That's his timetable, and I know it doesn't make any sense to us. But if the king has a plan, then it's all going according to plan, right? And I'll assure you, God does not check with Pastor Reed first before doing any of this. So after all this, we're told this is going to happen, whether you like it or not. There's no qualifiers to the captivity of Babylon, right? You can fight it, you won't escape. If you do fight it, you're not going to prosper. Pretty plain words. Pretty plain words. Now after this, in chapter 32, you're going to see, it's kind of strange, but it makes sense if we think about it. You're going to see a long prophecy here about the land, if you look at the other chapters, right? And I'm not going to take the time to read these prophecies. We may get to those later. We're going to pick a few of them apart next week. But this is very important because Jeremiah was told to buy land in Judah, right? You remember that? And he was that was right in the middle of his preaching. God instructed Jeremiah to buy land, which he does. God obeys God. He goes and he actually records the deed, and then he brings the deed to the king. Okay, he does that. And this was, of course, what? Well, it's an act of faith. Proof of what? That Jeremiah believed in the second part of his mission, the building and planting and the deliverance of the people. So that was an act of proof showing that God's plan will come all the way through to fruition. And of course, that would have been the future deliverance of the kingdom. Okay, and that actually means something to us here if we understand the Israel people today are under the captivity of Mystery Babylon. We do things as act of faith, as proof that we know that there will be national deliverance. Do we not? Now, there's certain things we should be seen doing, and there's certain things we should not be seen doing. Agreed? All right. Trying to escape Babylon's punishment? Don't do that, because it won't happen. Fighting Babylon, you can do it, but you're not going to prosper. So, pick your battles. But I want to do a detailed study on this when we get back from the conference, because there are things we need to pick apart, right? And I apologize for the brevity of these sermons in the last couple of weeks, but we do have a conference in Arkansas, and I do not want these detailed sermons to be broken up with any Sundays in between, because this is going to be a serious study. So Jeremiah's message then, it can be applied to us in this nation in this day and age, can it not? Can God's instruction to Jeremiah be applied to us? Can the Israel people's situation under the old Babylonian capital be applied to us now? If Jeremiah is what? Preaching about Babylon and future Babylon. Preaching about Israel and future regathered Israel, right? Which he does. The whole book. Spoiler alert. It's all end-time prophecy. By the time you get to 50 on. Now, what's Jeremiah's message do for us today? Take the time to read these verses. We're not going to be reading them today. I'm going to tell you what, you know what? We have time. Jeremiah 29. I didn't read these ahead of time, so if there's any tricky names in there, they're going to get me. Jeremiah 29, verses 1 through 23. Now these are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem unto the residue of the elders which were carried away captive, and to the priests, and to the prophets, and to all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon. So these are Jeremiah's words. These are his instructions to God's people while under Babylonian captivity. All right? After that, Jeconiah, the king and the queen, and the eunuchs, and the princes of Judah and Jerusalem, and all the carpenters and the smiths were departed from Jerusalem by the hand of Elisah, the son of Shaphan, and Gemariah, the son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent unto Babylon to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, to the God of Israel, unto all that are carried away captives, who I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon. Verse 5, Build ye houses, and dwell in them, plant gardens, and eat the fruit of them. Take ye wives, and beget sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased there, and not diminished. and seek the peace of the city, whether I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto the Lord for it, for in the peace thereof ye shall have peace. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, let not your prophets and your diviners that be in the midst of you deceive you, neither hearken to your dreams, which ye cause to be dreamed, for they prophesy falsely unto you in my name. I have not sent them, saith the Lord. For thus saith the Lord, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word toward you, in causing you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you, and ye shall seek me and find me, and when you search for me with all your heart, and I will be found of you, saith the Lord, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations, and from the places whither I have driven you, saith the Lord. I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive. Because ye have said, the Lord has raised us up prophets in Babylon, know that thus saith the Lord, of the king that sitteth upon the throne of David, and of all the people that dwelleth in this city, and of your brethren that are not gone forth with you into captivity, thus saith the Lord, Lord of hosts, behold, I will send upon them the sword, the famine, and the pestilence, and will not make them like vile figs that cannot be eaten, they are so evil. And I will persecute them with the sword, with the famine, and with the pestilence, and will deliver them to be removed to all the kingdoms of the earth, to be a curse, and an astonishment, and an hissing, and a reproach among all nations, whither I have driven them. Because they have not hearkened to my word, saith the Lord, which I sent unto them by my servants the prophets, rising up early and sending them. But ye would not hear, saith the Lord. Hear ye therefore the word of the Lord, all ye of the captivity, whom I have sent from Jerusalem to Babylon. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, of Ahab, the son of Koliah, of Zedekiah, the son of Messiah, which prophesy a lie unto you in my name. Behold, I will deliver them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he shall slay them before your eyes. And of them that shall be taken up a curse by all the captivity of Judah, which are in Babylon, saying, the Lord make thee like Zedekiah and like Ahab, whom the king of Babylon roasted in the fire. Because they have committed villainy in Israel, and have committed adultery with their neighbors' wives, and have spoke lying words in my name, which I have not commanded them, even I know, and I am the witness, saith the Lord. So these are Jeremiah's instructions to Judah kingdom, the people that have been brought into the captivity, right? Now what did we read? What points do we read? How does Jeremiah's message apply to us today, if we're God's people and if we're under Babylonian captivity? Well, he told us to settle in, didn't he? Build houses, plant gardens, and live peacefully in Babylon, right? What else did you see? Seek the Lord, right? That's what he told us to do. Pretty good advice, right? All right. Seek the Lord with all your hearts while in captivity. What else? Pray for the city. Pray for the city of Babylon, because if it thrives, you will thrive as well. Right? That's what he said. What else? Ignore false prophets. They're prophesying what? An early release. Right? I would say they're actually probably, maybe, I hear it today, they're prophesying ways to escape before that time. Ignore them. Nothing but trouble. Right? Good advice on all accounts. What else did he say? Have children and grow in number in Babylon. Isn't that what he's talking about? Taking wives and daughters and sons for her, right? What else? Act like a Christian. Do good things for the city of Babylon. You know what he said? All right. So, Jeremiah's instructions to our people while under Babylonian captivity were what? Settle in, seek the Lord, pray, ignore false prophets, have children, and act like a Christian. That's the instructions Jeremiah gave to the Judites under Babylonian captivity. These are the instructions that Pastor Reed's giving to our people under mystery Babylon's captivity. So you guys out there, while I'm at the conference, you guys do this. Settle in. We're here now. It'll be over when God says it's over, not a second before. Seek the Lord. Okay. You won't know God unless you only know God as well as you know His Word. Seek the Lord. Use this book here. Pray to God. Pray. Have a conversation with God every day. Ignore false prophets who tell you that this isn't really a captivity, or that it'll be over very, very, very soon, or saying Jesus is here or Jesus is there. Ignore that, and ignore anybody that tells you of ways to find an angle or get out of it early, right? Or cheat the system, maybe. Have children, so in other words, have plans for the future, right? All right? It's not over. And of course, act like a Christian while in Babylonian captivity. Good advice. Best advice I can give you, and it comes straight from the book of Jeremiah. So, is this what we're to do in this age of our own captivity? All right, you all agree. Excellent, good. And I hope you guys out there are nodding your heads too. And we'll see. And now you know we're going to get to the good stuff. But first I have to go to a conference and give some messages there. So for you guys out there that plan on attending, I will see you at the conference next Friday. Okay? All right. With that, we'll close in prayer. Our Father, our God, we thank you for this word and instruction you've given your prophets, God, that we may learn from them, God, that they are given to us for instruction, that they are profitable for doctrine, God. I pray that we'll take Jeremiah's mission, Jeremiah's ministry, and apply them to our own people and our own lives in this age, God, so that we may be the best Christians we can be to others, and God, that we may serve your kingdom and your kingdom's purposes in this age until your return. We thank you for this. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.